Now, these are the latest pictures from the city where it's just after 7 a.m. local time. And as you can see, we've got smoke billowing from buildings and vehicles on the streets that have been torched by rioters. And riot police are still out in force. They're being backed by the National Guard, which has been called in to help quell the violence that's already left 2 people dead, and also a police station was set alight. Now, US President Donald Trump has taken to Twitter to call the protesters thugs and warned that when the looting starts, the shooting starts. Although Twitter has since placed a warning on it, saying it violated rules about glorifying violence. And a short time ago, Minnesota police arrested a television crew member from CNN, which had been reporting on the violence in the city, and they've since been released after an apology from the Minnesota governor. Well, Max Nesterak is a reporter with local newspaper The Minnesota Reformer. He's been on the ground covering the protests and joins me live from Minneapolis. Now, Max, this is the morning after a third night of unrest. What are the latest developments?
So the latest developments, as you mentioned, the CNN reporting crew was arrested. People are out now. The National Guard is out, has staked off the protest zone, and people are now surveying the damage and the wreckage in the morning.
Can you tell us more about the police building that was set alight and why it was targeted?
Yeah, so the Minneapolis 3rd Police Precinct is where the police officer worked who kneeled on George Floyd's neck, killing him. So that's why protesters went to that site in South Minneapolis. It's because that's the area that the police station oversees.
And the mayor of Minneapolis, Jacob Frey, is he seen as doing enough to kind of stop the spread of violence even further?
It's a difficult question, and I know people have feelings on both sides of that. There were calls of why was Mayor Frey allowing, what did he have to say for police who seemed to escalate the situation with protesters over the last few days when police fired rubber bullets and tear gas and flash bomb grenades onto protesters. I myself was hit in the chest by a rubber bullet from a couple hundred yards away as I was trying to take a photo. So there's that side, and then people are wondering why has this been allowed to happen. I was there through the night, and it was just an unbelievable scene, seeing buildings going up in smoke, seeing people rioting, cars streaming through, honking their horns. It felt like a celebration with just a very destructive tone and tenor to it. But there were no police officers in sight, and firefighters were stationed a block away, and then they too left. And so the city, this area, was allowed to burn until the National Guard arrived early in the morning.
And now that the National Guard have arrived, what's expected to happen?
So the National Guard is taking back control of the area, and it's unclear now. We're still trying to learn how many people may have been arrested. It sounds like many people dispersed as they arrived, and the next steps would be for firefighters to put out the fires and assess the damage. Even now, there's still smoke and buildings are still on fire.
And the protests have spread to other cities across the US. What are demonstrators calling for specifically?
So demonstrators and protesters, they want the officers, the 4 officers who were involved in the killing of George Floyd, to be arrested and charged. I was at a protest yesterday in downtown Minneapolis, which was largely peaceful until the very end, when it heated up with clashes between police, and again, tear gas was fired by police. And so the police officers involved are at home awaiting charges. The Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey has called on the Hennepin County Attorney, who has jurisdiction, to bring charges and to arrest the officers. He said, you know, if I had killed George Floyd, or if you had done that, you would be in jail. Why are the officers allowed to be at home? And that's a question that I heard from many demonstrators and protesters as well.
You've been on the street, you've experienced these few nights of unrest. Can you tell us the outrage that is being felt by the community? Can you remember the last time that you knew that tensions were so high?
Yeah, it seems like, these tensions are always bubbling beneath the surface. In 2015, protesters took over the 4th Minneapolis precinct, different police station, when a unarmed black man was shot and killed by police, Jamar Clark. Protesters held that precinct for 18 days. There was another great protest and outcry over the shooting death of Justine Ruszczyk-Damond, an Australian woman who lived in South Minneapolis, who had called the police asking for help and was later shot and killed by a Minneapolis police officer in 2017. And in between those two, there's Philando Castile, who wasn't in Minneapolis. Philando Castile was shot and killed, a black man shot and killed by police in a suburb of Minneapolis, and that was in 2016. So for 3 years in a row, this area has witnessed the unjust killing of people by police officers. And you can see the frustration in the signs that say not one more death.
Well, Max, clearly it is a very tense time, and also hope that you stay safe in these unexpected situations. Thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Yeah, thank you for having me.